الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام الأتمان الأكملان على خاتم النبيين والسيد المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, then inshallah we'll continue with reading from the book known as Al-Awsat في السنن والإجماع والاختلاف لأبي بكر محمد بن إبراهيم بن المنذري رحمه الله تعالى, who died in the year 318 after the Hijrah. The medium-sized book that contains the sunan as well as the ijma' and the differences of the scholars. And the author is in the section Kitab al-Tahara, the section that deals with purification, and he is mentioning those actions that necessitate or mandate wudu, from what the proof is established in the sunnah. He is mentioning those actions that mandate a wudu where the foundation of it is proven by the sunnah. Those things in the sunnah, or those things that the sunnah proves a wudu is necessary for it. Those things that the sunnah proves a wudu is necessary because of it. And he's reached the chapter Dhikrul Wudu'i min al-Madhi. Dhikrul Wudu' min al-Madhi. This is regarding the obligation of wudu for madhi. And al-Madhi is that mixture of semen and urine that excretes out of the private area before arousal, or in order to stimulate arousal and excitement. What they call in English often pre-cum. Al-Madhi is that mixture of semen, right, the fluid that sperm travels in, as well as urine. Those fluids mix together, it comes out in a clear, palish, cloudy substance that helps to stimulate arousal and get the parties involved ready for intercourse. And so that fluid in Arabic is called madhi, or al-madhi. And al-madhi is najis. It is najis. It is a impure substance, meaning it requires to be washed away if it gets onto a pure substance or a tahir substance, as opposed to that which is full semen, for example. Then the scholars differ about it, but the opinion that the fatwa is usually given with is that semen, for example, is not najis. The fluid that babies are created from is not najis. But this madhi, then it is something that is mixed with urine, and therefore it is a najis fluid. If it gets on something like your clothing or a part of your body or something like this, then it is a najis substance. It needs to be washed off. That's regarding itself. As far as the obligation of making wudu from it or because of it, then the author, he says, ثبتت الأخبار عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بإيجابه الوضوء من المذي. The transmissions are firm and well established regarding the commandment of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to make wudu because of madhi. The transmissions are well established from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his making it obligatory to make wudu because of al-madhi. So he says, أخبرنا الربيع عن الشافعي أنه قال وأخبرني محمد بن عبد الله بن عبد الحكم قال أخبرنا ابن وهب قال أخبرنا مالك أن أبا النضر حدثه عن سليمان بن يسار عن المقداد بن الأسود رضي الله تعالى عنه أن علي بن أبي طالب رضي الله تعالى عنه أمره أن يسأل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن أحدنا إذا خرج منه المذي ماذا عليه، فإن عند ابنته وأنا أستحيي أن أسأله. قال المقداد فسألته فقال إذا وجد أحدكم ذلك فليغسل فرجه وليتوضأ وضوءه للصلاة. The author, he says that Al-Rabi' informed us on the authority of Shafi'i. He said, and he also, meaning Abu Bakr said here, so it should be, and Al-Shafi'i, قال وأخبرنا محمد بن عبد الله بن عبد الحكم. Likewise, Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Abdul Hakam informed me. He said that Ibn Wahb informed us, the two of them, i.e. Ash-Shafi'i and Abdullah ibn Wahb, the two of them said Malik informed us that Aba Nadhr narrated to him on the authority of Sulaiman ibn Yasar. Sulaiman ibn Yasar on the authority of al-Miqdad ibn al-Aswad radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, that Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu commanded him to ask the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about one of us if Madhi excretes, or if he excretes Madhi, if Madhi comes out from him, what should he do? What is necessary for him to do? Ali commanded Al-Miqdad to ask the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about one of us when he excretes Madhi, what should he do? What is necessary for him to do? Ali, he says, فَإِنَّ عِنْدِ ابْنَتُهُ, because his daughter is with me. I.e., am married to his daughter. His daughter is under me, and I am shy to ask him. I am too shy to ask him. Al-Miqdad, he said, so I asked him, and he, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, when one of you finds that, i.e., if one of you all finds that, or if that happens to one of you all, then he must wash his private part. فَلْيَغْسِلْ فَرْجَهُ, then he must wash his private part. وَلْيَتَوَضَّأْ وُضُوءَهُ لِلصَّلَاةِ, and he must make the wudu as for salat. He must make a wudu for salat, or he must make the same wudu necessary for salat. وَلْيَتَوَضَّأْ وُضُوءَهُ لِلصَّلَاةِ, and he must make the wudu necessary for salat, or he must make the same wudu he makes for salat. Now he says, حدثنا محمد بن إسماعيل قال حدثنا يحيى بن أبي بكير قال حدثنا زائدة عن أبي حسين الأسدي عن أبي عبد الرحمن السلمي عن علي رضي الله تعالى عنه أنه قال كنت رجلا مذاء وكانت عند ابنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فأمرت رجلا فسأله فقال توضأ واغسله. Abu Bakr, he says that Muhammad ibn Ismail narrated to us. He said that Yahya ibn Abi Bukair narrated to us. He said that Zaida narrated to us on the authority of Abi Hussein al-Asadi, on the authority of Abi Abdul Rahman al-Sulami, on the authority of Ali radiyallahu ta'ala an, who said, I was an individual who used to excrete madhi abundantly, right? I would excrete madhi abundantly, madha. I would constantly, or I would abundantly excrete pre-cum. And the daughter of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was under me. She was married to me. She was with me. She was my companion. So I commanded a person to ask him. And he, i.e. the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, make wudu and wash it. I make wudu and wash your private part. Wash it, wagsil, wagsil, and wash it, i.e. your private part, or the Madhi itself. Wash off the Madhi or wash your private part. The pronoun there is referring to that. The next thing he goes on to say, Abu Bakr. So here you see he just mentions the Sunan, right? The name of the book is Al-Awsat fi Sunani wal Ijma'i wal Ikhtilaf. And this is the section that deals with the things that the Sunnah proves the obligation of wudu because of it. So there's no ayah referring to washing of Madhi. Or should I say to the obligation of performing wudu because of Madhi. But the Sunnah establishes it. And so he mentions the Sunan, the narrations pertaining to religious law or Islamic jurisprudence regarding this topic. Then he's going to talk about the ijma' and the ikhtilaf, if there is any. Abu Bakr says, قال أبو بكر وقد روينا عن عمر بن الخطاب وعن عبد الله بن عباس وعن عبد الله بن عمر وجماعة من التابعين أنهم أوجبوا الوضوء من المذ. وبه قال مالك وأهل المدينة والأوزاعي وأهل الشام وسفيان الثوري وأهل العراق وكذلك قال الشافعي وأصحابه ولست أعلم في وجوب الوضوء منه اختلافا بين أهل العلم. So here he mentions the consensus. He says, Abu Bakr, he says, and indeed it has been transmitted to us about Umar ibn al-Khattab, as well as about Abdullah ibn Abbas and Abdullah ibn Umar, and a large group of tabi'een, that all of them made it obligatory to make wudu because of Madhi. All of them made it obligatory to make wudu due to the excretion of pre-cum. And according to this was the statement of Malik. And Imam Malik said the same thing, as well as the people of Medina, and as well as Al-Awsat and the people of Sham, as well as Sufyan al-Thawri and the people of Iraq. And like this was the statement of Ash-Shafi'i and all of his companions. And I do not know of any disagreement regarding the obligation of wudu because of it between the people of knowledge. I do not know regarding the obligation of wudu because of it any disagreement between the people of knowledge. And so here he mentions the statement of some of the Sahaba, or should I say he attributes to some of the Sahaba, Umar ibn al-Khattab and Abdullah ibn Abbas and Abdullah ibn Umar, that they all deemed it to be obligatory, as well as a large group of tabi'een. And he attributes it to Malik and the people of Medina. Imam Malik was the Imam of the people of Medina, so he attributes it to Imam Malik and the people of Medina, just as he attributes it to Al-Awsat and the people of Ash-Sham. Al-Awsat was the Imam of the people of Ash-Sham during his time, from the Atba' tabi'een. And he used to have a madhab that was very popular and prominent. Likewise, he attributes it to Sufyan al-Thawri. Sufyan al-Thawri and the people of Iraq. And Sufyan al-Thawri was one of the Imams and the Imam of the people of Hadith in Iraq. And he used to have his own madhab as well. He had a madhab that was very prominent during that time. Likewise, he attributes it to Ash-Shafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, and his followers. Right? And he says, I do not know regarding the obligation of making wudu because of it any disagreement between the people of knowledge. So he states it as a consensus that everybody says that making wudu because of madhi is obligatory. Making wudu because of pre-cum is obligatory. After mentioning who said it, as his custom is in this book, is that he mentions his isnad to those who he attributed the statement to, so that you don't have to take his word for it, but you can refer back to those statements directly. And this was one of the qualities we said that separated his book apart from others. So while others might say Umar said this, and Ibn Abbas said this, and Nakha'i said that, and while others might say Malik and Al-Awza'i and Sufyan said these things, this book actually presents the chain. And in addition, from the things and the good qualities of this book, it preserves for us the madhab of these individuals who have disappeared. انقرضت مذاهب هؤلاء. The madhab of these individuals has vanished and dried up. But books like this preserve for us the madhab of Sufyan al-Thawri, which was an important madhab of the time, and the madhab of Al-Awza'i, and other than them. And so he says, mentioning some of the chain, he says, حدثنا علي بن الحسن قال حدثنا عبد الله عن سفيان عن الأعمش عن سليمان بن مسهر عن خرش بن الحر أن خرشة بن الحر or الحر and خرشة ibn al-Hur. And give me 1 second, I apologize. It's important that when you come by the names, we mentioned it before, and it's somebody that you don't know or something that you haven't seen, that you familiarize yourself with it. There's no sense in reading something incorrectly. خرش ابن الحر with a حركة يعني محركة بالفتح على الراء عن خرش ابن الحر. So he says حدثنا علي بن الحسن قال حدثنا عبد الله عن سفيان عن الأعمش عن سليمان بن مسهر عن خرشة بن الحر عن خرشة بن الحر أن عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله تعالى عنه سئل عن المذي فقال ذلك القطر وفيه الوضوء. He says that Ali ibn al-Hasan narrated to us. He said that Abdullah narrated to us on the authority of Sufyan, on the authority of Al-A'mash, on the authority of Sulaiman ibn Mushir, on the authority of Kharasha ibn al-Hur, who said that Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was asked about al-Madhi. And so he said, that's the drop, and there is wudu because of it. I.e., when we talk about the way that things excrete out of your body, they either excrete with force or they excrete without force, i.e. in a drop or in a drip fashion. So, for example, the semen that nullifies the wudu is that semen that excretes or that expels with force due to arousal. And likewise, when you urinate, it expels with force. But sometimes things can excrete out, right? They don't expel with force, but they come out in droplets and in a drip fashion. Akramakumullah. And so Umar here is referring to al-Madhi, that it's not the fluid involved in the acts of sex or intercourse that comes out with force. Instead, it's that fluid that comes out in droplets and in a drip, and it excretes out in such a fashion. That being the case, you still have to make wudu because of it. So he says, ذَلِكَ الْقَطْرُ وَفِيهِ الْوُضُوء. That's the droplets, and there is wudu because of it. قال أبو بكر حدثنا عبد الله قال أبو بكر حدثنا علي قال حدثنا عبد الله عن سفيان عن منصور عن مجاهد عن مورق عن ابن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما أنه قال في المذي والمني والودي فالمني فيه الغسل ومن هذين الوضوء يغسل ذكره ويتوضأ. He says that Ali narrated to us on the authority, he said that Ali narrated to us. He said that Abdullah narrated to us on the authority of Sufyan, on the authority of Mansur, on the authority of Mujahid, on the authority of Muwarriq, on the authority of Ibn Abbas, radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma. He was asked about, or that he said regarding al-Madhi, wal-Mani, wal-Wadi. He said regarding Madhi, which is that pre-cum, and al-Mani is the semen itself that shoots out with force, right? They call that al-Mani, right? And al-Wadi. Al-Wadi is what they call post-cum, or a fluid that excretes after intercourse. And it's similar to al-Madhi, that it excretes, it's a mixture of semen and urine. I'm trying to I'm here looking for the technical definition of it for you. Naam, so Ibn al-Manzur rahimahullah ta'ala, he says in his book Lisan al-Arab, he says that al-Wadi or al-Wadiyu is that which excretes out of the penis of a male after urine. إذا كان قد جامع قبل ذلك أو نظر. Right, it's that fluid that excretes out the penis of a male after he urinates prior to intercourse or looking, i.e. getting aroused through visual stimulation. And as far as al-Madhi, then that which comes out of the penis of a man when he looks, i.e. when he's getting aroused before intercourse. And in the hadith, ما ينقض الوضوء ذكر الودي بسكون الدال الودي وبكسرها الودي والودي وتشديد الياء البلل الزج أو اللزج الذي يخرج من الذكر بعد البول. So the point is that because these things, it's important to understand the realities of them, and so we try to be technical. Al-Madhi or al-Madhi is that which comes out prior to arousal, or to get you aroused, pre-cum. And then you have al-Mani, and al-Mani is that which shoots out upon climax. And al-Wadiyu or al-Wadi is that which comes after urinating when you're finished with intercourse. And this is something, akramakumullah, that men are aware of. After intercourse, a lot of times you have to urinate. And there's a fluid that might come out at the tail end of the urination. You might be done urinating and more fluid might come out. They call it post-cum in English. And sometimes it helps to get you back aroused again. And so all of these fluids, Ibn Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala anhu mentioned them. On the authority of Muwarriq, he said about Ibn Abbas that he said regarding al-Madhi wal-Mani wal-Wadi or al-Madhi wal-Mani wal-Wadi, he said, as far as al-Mani, then you have to bathe. فَفِيهِ الْغُسْلِ. Because of it, there is a ghusl. If you expel mani, you have to make a ghusl. وَمِنْ هَذَيْنِ الْوُضُوءِ. And from these two, i.e. post and pre-cum, al-Madhi wal-Wadi, يَغْسِلُ ذَكَرَهُ وَيَتَوَضَّأ. He should wash his penis and make wudu. He should wash his penis and make wudu. Abu Bakr, he says, حدثنا محمد بن نصر قال حدثنا داود بن رشيد قال حدثنا الوليد بن مسلم عن أبي سعيد روح بن جناح عن أبي سعيد روح بن جناح عن مجاهد بينما نحن أصحاب عبد الله بن عباس جلوس في المسجد طاووس وسعيد بن جبير وعكرمة وابن عباس قائم يصلي إذ وقف علينا يعني واقف فقال هل من مفتي فقلنا سل فقال ما تقولون في رجل إذا بال أتبعه الماء الدافق قلنا الذي يكون منه الولد قال نعم قلنا عليه الغسل فولى الرجل يرجع وخفف ابن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنه في صلاته فلما سلم قال لعكرمة علي بالرجل ثم أقبل علينا فقال أرأيتم ما أفتيتم به هذا الرجل عن كتاب الله قلنا لا قال فعن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قلنا لا قال فعن أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قلنا لا قال فعن من قلنا أن رأينا قال لذلك يقول رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقيه واحد أشد على الشيطان من 1000 عابد. فلما جاء الرجل أقبل عليه ابن عباس فلما جاء الرجل أقبل عليه ابن عباس فقال أرأيت إذا كان ذلك منك هل تجد شهوة في قلبك قال لا قال فخدرا يعني في جسدك فخدرا يعني في جسدك قال لا قال هذه إبردة هذه إبردة يجزيك فيها الوضوء هذه إبردة يجزيك فيها الوضوء هذه إبردة يجزيك فيها الوضوء. Now, this narration is a good narration. He says that Muhammad ibn Nasr narrated to us. He said that Dawood ibn Rashid narrated to us. He said that Al-Walid ibn Muslim narrated to us on the authority of Abi Sa'id Ruh ibn Junah. Ruh ibn Junah. Sorry. No, that's what I was unsure about. Ruh ibn Junah. Ruh ibn Janah. Ruh ibn Janah. He said on the authority of Abi Sa'id, Ruh ibn Janah, Ruh ibn Janah. On the authority of Mujahid, who said that while we, the companions of Abdullah ibn Abbas, were sitting in the masjid, Tawus, Sa'id ibn Jubair, Ikrimah, i.e. in himself, Mujahid, and Ibn Abbas was standing making salah. He was standing and offering salah. إذ وقف علينا, يعني واقف. When someone stood over us or stood in front of us, and he said, is there any mufti around? Is there anybody who gives fatwa? And so we said, ask. And subhanallah, here you see the students of Ibn Abbas answering questions during the life of Ibn Abbas. And this is something that Ibn Abbas used to encourage. And he used to say, isn't it sufficient or doesn't it make you happy that you can answer a question while I'm around? That way, if you're wrong, I can fix it. And this is an example of this. And so these tabi'een, Tawus, Mujahid, Ikrimah, Sa'id ibn Jubair, and these are from the leaders of the Tabi'een. They told this individual, ask. And so he said, what do you say regarding a man when he urinates and he follows that up with that thick fluid that pushes out? Right? Al-Dafiq, as Allah mentions it in the Quran, that thick fluid, which is here semen. Right? He follows it with that thick fluid. We said, Mujahid says, we said, that which babies are made from, that which children are made from? And that individual replied, yes. And so we said he must take a bath, alayhi al-ghusl. He must bathe. He must take a ghusl. And the individual urinates, and after urinating, some semen comes out. And so they said that that individual must take a ghusl. Mujahid, he says, فَوَلَّ الرَّجُلُ يُرَجِّعُ. So the individual left saying, إِنَّ لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّ إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Right? يُرَجِّعُ. And he found that to be something hard upon him and a calamity. And so what do you do when a calamity befalls you? You say, إِنَّ لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّ إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. فَوَلَّ الرَّجُلُ يُرَجِّعُ. So the individual turned away saying, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Wa khaffafa ibn Abbas fi salatihi. And Ibn Abbas, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he lightened his salah. Right? He shortened or he reduced the salah. And so when he gave salams, he told Ikrimah, bring that man to me. Bring me that man. Alayya ar-rajul. Bring me that man. And then he turned to us and he said, this thing that you all have given the verdict regarding it to this man, is it based on the book of Allah? Don't you all see this thing that you've said to this man? أَرَأَيْتُمْ مَا أَفْتَيْتُمْ بِهِ هَذَا الرَّجُلُ. This, don't you all see this thing that you've given this man a fatwa regarding it? Is it based on the book of Allah? They said no. He said, then on the messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They said no. He said, then from one of the Sahaba of the messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They said no. And so he said, then where did you get this from? Who did you get this from? فَأَمَّنْ. So then who did you get this from? Did you get it from Allah? The book of Allah? They said no. Did you get it from the messenger? They said no. Then from one of the Sahaba? They said no. He said, then who did you get this from? They said, Mujahid said, we said, and ra'yina, it was our opinion. Ibn Abbas, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, لِذَلِكَ يَقُولُ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. This is why the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, one faqih, one person with understanding of the religion is more difficult upon the shaitan than 1,000 worshippers. Right? He's showing us so many benefits in this narration, the fundamentals in which we base on Quran, Sunnah, Sahaba. So we see that the Sahaba had this foundation well before anybody else. He's showing us the harm of answering without evidence and without foundation. And he's showing us that the Quran and the Sunnah is what protects the individual from allowing the shaitan to beat him and take over him. Because they answered without these things and gave way to the shaitan. And he says, so the messenger would say, one religious learned person is more difficult upon the shaitan than 1,000 worshippers. The narrator, he goes on to say, Mujahid, he goes on to say, فَلَمَّا جَاءَ الرَّجُلُ. So when the man came, Ibn Abbas turned to him and he said, when this happens to you, أَرَأَيْتَ إِذَا كَانَ ذَلِكَ مِنْكَ. When this happens, أَرَأَيْتَ here, it's like, tell me, right? Even though the words are don't you see, here what it means is tell me, right? What's your view? Tell me. Ara'ayta, don't you? Tell me. Either kana dhalika mink, when this happens from you or when this happens to you, do you have any desire in your heart? Right? Is there any desire or shahwa? Is there any desire in your heart that caused this to happen, basically? Meaning, were you lusting and longing and having these sexual desires going around in your thoughts at the time? Maybe you weren't with a woman, maybe you weren't doing anything, but you had these sexual thoughts. And the man said no. Right? Because sometimes a person can ejaculate just through thinking. And if a person ejaculates through thinking, even without intercourse or physical contact, then it's still necessary that he make a ghusl. So Ibn Abbas is doing something and teaching us again the etiquette of how to give a fatwa. And this is something that a lot of us can learn from. That when you answer a question, sometimes you need to ask questions before you answer what was asked of you. Because the different scenarios can change the answer. So Ibn Abbas here is asking, when this happened, tell me, when this happens to you, is there any desire that you find in your heart? Are your sexual thoughts going around inside of you that caused this to happen? The man says no. He says, for khudran, i.e. in your body. Meaning, do you find your body intoxicated? And here what this means is, when you ejaculate, it usually it is accompanied by a sense of euphoria and a sense of intoxication in your body that can kind of paralyze and cover you and things of this nature. I'm sure all of you have seen, things of this nature, akramakumullah. And so he's saying, does that sense that your body goes through with ejaculation, does that feeling that your body has, for khudran or khadran, this sense of drunkenness or intoxication or euphoria that you get when ejaculating in your body, does it happen in this circumstance when you urinate and the semen comes out afterwards? The individual, he says no. He says, Hadihi ibrida. This is al-ibrida. And al-ibrida is a sickness that is well known. It's a well-known sickness that comes, they say, out of coldness, right? When an individual experiences fevers or coldness or high moisture, and it can cause him to excrete this fluid even while not having intercourse. Al-ibrida, he says, illatun ma'rufa min ghalabat al-bardi wal-rutuba. It's a well-known weakness or sickness that comes when there is overpowering cold and moisture or humidity that causes an individual to excrete droplets because of intercourse. وَهَمْزَتُهَا زَائِدَةٌ وَرَجُلٌ بِهِ إِبْرِدَةٌ. Meaning the hamza in this word ibrida is an extra letter, right? It's not part of the original part of the word. The word is barda, right? But they put the hamza there extra, so they say ibrida instead of birda or something like this, right? From the word bard. And they say that a person has ibrida. When a person is afflicted with this thing, they say رَجُلٌ بِهِ إِبْرِدَةٌ وَهُوَ تَقْطِيرُ الْبَوْلِ لَا يَنْبَسِطُ إِلَى النِّسَاءِ. Right? وَلَا يَنْبَسِطُ إِلَى النِّسَاءِ. It is the excretion of droplets of urine and not getting aroused by women, right? Not able to get erect for women. Right, so it has aspects of what do they call it in English? Subhanallah, erectile dysfunction. ED. It has elements of erectile dysfunction, and it also has elements of a continuous excretion of this fluid. And they say from its causes are extreme cold and moisture. But in any circumstance, Ibn Abbas is answering this. And this shows you that the scholars of Islam previously, not only did they have religious knowledge, but they had worldly knowledge, medical knowledge, scientific, mathematical, physical. Like our scholars of Islam, from the mistakes that people make is that they think that they're one-trick ponies, that they don't know anything about the dunya, and all they know is Allah said, His Messenger said. Yes, they know Allah said and His Messenger said, but that knowledge of what Allah and His Messenger said also is the gateway and the key to understanding every aspect of the dunya. So Ibn Abbas diagnoses his ailment, and he says, this is ibrida. This is just this sickness known as ibrida, and it's sufficient for you to make a wudu. You don't have to do anything else other than make a wudu. A couple of more narrations. He says, حدثنا محمد بن يحيى قال حدثنا أبو حذيفة قال حدثنا عكرمة عن عبد ربه ابن موسى عن أمه أنها سألت عائشة رضي الله تعالى عنها عن المذي فقالت إن كل فحل يمذي أو يمذي وإنه المذي والودي والمني فأما المذي فالرجل يلاعب امرأته فيظهر على ذكره الشيء فيغسل ذكره وأنثييه ويتوضأ وأما الودي فإنه بعد البول يغسل ذكره وأنثييه ويتوضأ ولا يغسل يعني ولا يغسل وأما المني الأعظم منه الشهوة وفيه الغسل. He says that Muhammad ibn Yahya narrated to us. He said that Abu Hudhayfa narrated to us. He said that Ikrimah narrated to us on the authority of Abdi Rabbih ibn Musa, on the authority of Abdi Rabbih ibn Musa, Abdi Rabbih ibn Musa, on the authority of his mother. She said that she asked Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha. So here is a narration on Aisha, even though he didn't mention Aisha earlier in the people that he attributed the opinion to. So this is an extra benefit for you. He says that his mother, yani Abdi Rabbihi ibn Musa, said that his mother said that she asked Aisha about al-Madhi, or about pre-cum. And so she said, Aisha, she said, every bull excretes pre-cum. Every male, everything that has a fahl, everything that fertilizes, or what's the word? Al-fahl. And al-fahl can be a bull, but everything that impregnates, right? Al-fahl is a word for it in English. It's escaping me right now. But every bull, or everything that fertilizes, or every male, if you will, excretes madhi. And indeed, the fluid, and indeed it is, the fluids are, that come out of the penis are al-madhi, wal-wadi, wal-mani. The fluids that come out of the penis are pre-cum and post-urine fluid, or post-cum, they call it sometimes, and semen. Al-Madhi and Al-Wadi and Al-Mani. He says, as she says, radiyallahu ta'ala anha, as far as Al-Madhi, then it comes from a man playing with his woman, right? Yula'ibu imra'ataha, right? He is playing around with his woman, with his wife, right? And playing here obviously is a euphemism for interacting with her in a sexual fashion in a way lesser than intercourse, right? Yula'ibu imra'ataha. And this is a good etiquette, right? How the Salaf would be choosy in their word selection and would not be vulgar in talking about these things. Making out, for example, a statement that we have in English. It comes from a man making out with his woman. Like this is the statement of the Prophet ﷺ that he said to Jabir, Hella bikra, why didn't you marry a virgin? فَتُلَاعِبُهَا وَتُلَاعِبُكَ, so that you could play with her and she could play with you. It doesn't mean racing here, right? It means that you guys could, make out and engage in close contact with each other of a sexual nature, doing an intercourse, like something in a way that's less than intercourse, the precursors of intercourse, foreplay, if you will. Aisha says, so as far as al-Madhi, then it comes from a man engaging in foreplay with his woman. And it comes out, فَيَظْهَرُ عَلَى ذَكِرِهِ شَيْءٍ, and then something appears and comes on top of his penis. Meaning this fluid it excretes out and finds its way to the head or the top of the man's penis. And this is something that stimulates ejaculation. Now, she says, فَيَغْسِلُ ذَكَرَهُ وَأُنْثَيَيْهِ, so he should wash his penis and his two unthayay, right? His two, I can't think of a better way to translate it. His scrotum, right? His two balls. He should wash his penis and his two balls, right? Unthayay. And he should make wudu. And as far as al-Wadi, she goes on to say, as far as al-Wadi, then this is something that comes after urine. And he should wash his penis and his two balls, right? His scrotum. And he should make wudu, and he doesn't have to bathe. Wala yaghsil, right? He doesn't have to bathe. And as far as al-Mani, then this is the greatest. It comes out of arousal, or should we say shahwa, this arousal that an individual experiences, this desire, this stimulation that the individual experiences. وَفِيهِ الْغُسُلُ, and because of it, a ghusl is necessary. وَفِيهِ الْغُسُلُ, and because of it, bathing is necessary. This is the statement of Aisha. Lastly, he says, حدثنا محمد بن إسماعيل قال حدثنا إسحاق بن عيسى قال حدثنا مالك عن زيد بن أسلم عن جندب مولى بن عياش أنه قال سألت بن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنه أو عنهما عن المذي فقال إذا وجدته فاغسل فرجك وتوضأ وضوءك للصلاة. He says that Muhammad ibn Ismail narrated to us. He said that Ishaq ibn Isa narrated to us. He said that Malik narrated to us on the authority of Zayd ibn Aslam, on the authority of Jundub, the freed slave of Ibn Ayyash. Jundub, the freed slave of Ibn Ayyash, who said that I asked Ibn Umar, radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, about al-Madhi, about pre-cum. And he said, if you find that, then wash your private part. If it happens to you, if you excrete pre-cum, if you find that, either wajadta dhalik, if you find that, then wash your private. And make wudu, the same wudu you make for salah. And make the same wudu you make for salah. Abu Bakr, he says, قال Abu Bakr, وأما الودي فهو شيء يخرج من الذكر على إثر البول والوضوء يجب بخروج البول وليس يوجب بخروجه شيء إلا الوضوء الذي وجب بخروج البول. Abu Bakr, he says, as far as al-Wadi, somebody might have asked the question earlier when we mentioned its definition and that it's something that comes out after urinating. Somebody might say, well, why do we need to make a wudu? Because of it, we've already urinated, so we have to make a wudu, right? And this is why it's important that, one, the Prophet mentioned it in some narrations that he didn't present here, but the Salaf mentioned it as well, that it comes out and it is a cause of wudu. Even if urine is a cause of wudu, it is a cause of wudu as well. And so Abu Bakr, he says here, as far as al-Wadi, then it is something that comes out of the penis after urinating, right? On the trail of urination. And wudu is mandated by the expelling of urine, by the excreting of urine. And it, i.e. al-wadi, or should we say, and there is nothing else mandated by excreting it, i.e. madi, al-wadi. There is nothing else mandated by excreting it other than wudu that was made necessary by excreting urine as well, or by the expelling of urine as well. So there's nothing else legislated or mandated for the expelling of al-wadi other than wudu, which was made necessary as well by the expelling of urine. And so, like we said, the statement of Aisha is a good way to summarize this chapter. The fluids are three: al-Madhi, which comes out to get the individual aroused, and it is a cause of wudu. And after that, there is al-Mani, which comes out upon climax, and this necessitates a ghusl. And then there is al-Wadi, that is the excrement or the excretion that comes out after urine, and it necessitates wudu, just as the urine that came out in front of it necessitated wudu. And like this, the second thing that the author mentions after urine from the things that the sunnah proves a wudu is necessary because of is the expelling of al-Madhi. And you can attach to that as well al-Wadi. But the reason why he didn't mention it in the chapter title is because of what he just said here. Since it comes out after urine, there's no need to make it something separate, right? Because it only comes out after urine, and so the wudu was already necessary. But in spite of that, it is something that mandates it on its own. And if you take by the statement of Aisha that you should wash your scrotum as well, then it has an extra ruling on top of the ruling of urine. So with urine, you don't have to wash your scrotum. But according to Aisha, with al-Madhi and al-Wadi, then you should wash your scrotum as well. هذا أكرمكم الله وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.